I'm feeling great. Less hair on the top, more hair on the bottom.
Welcome back to A Cup of Tea with Shauna Marie. It's time for an update. Welcome back to A Cup of Tea with Shauna Marie. It has been a while and I, closed up my channel. Don't know if it'll be forever or not, but I know that some responses were, please update us on how your husband is doing with cancer. So that is what I have come to do. So I am here to tell you he is doing great. He is doing great. Thank you all for praying. God has been so good to us. Where do I begin? The journey was long. Back in March, we had a stem cell treatment. So, for months he had a pill of chemo, the steroid once a week, a shot in the arm once a week, different things that was slowly killing the cancer over about 5 months period. And then there was that final thing that had to be done, and that was a stem cell transplant. It's where they actually do a surgery to put something in his chest that will enable them to collect his own stem cells from his own body, save them on ice overnight, blast him with chemo, and then give him his stem cells back. And then after that is this journey of just watching him go downhill until he comes back again. So March was difficult. But we also saw God providing for us in such beautiful ways. My sister and her husband, just said, hey, we can take Samuel for a few weeks while you're going through that stem cell transplant. And we took them up on that. Samuel was more than happy to be with his aunt and uncle and cousins. He loves that. And he had a great time. Really built a strong relationship there with them. And he talks often about he uses the word my Uncle Peter. He's very in a good way possessive of him, and just really special time that he had with his Aunt Bethany and his Uncle Peter, and so that was a real blessing, and it gave John and I the ability to focus on this situation, on each other, but especially me on him and him on this situation. So that was March, and we had even other things to deal with around it. Our car was in the shop for a long time. They couldn't fix it right away, so we were renting a car, and that was even getting expensive, so somebody lent us their spare car, and it was just when you look back, you're like, wow, we got through that. There was a lot going on, but we got through that. We went to the hospital every day where John was getting each part of the treatment. I remember that it was very fascinating watching them get the blood from his body in through a machine that sorted out the blood, and by spinning it, it would measure the weight of each part of the blood. By doing that, it would get out the part they needed to save, which was the stem cells, and I think one other part of the blood, and then it would give the rest of the blood back. And that was fascinating. In fact, the nurse was just over the moon about his stem cells. It was actually really funny. She's like, they look so great. Oh, the color is great. And I was like, don't you be looking at my husband's stem cells. It It was really, really funny, but it was very exciting to realize that the number that they look for of how many stem cells they collected was through the roof. I'm trying to remember now what the exact number was. More than twice. More than twice. I'd say maybe even close to 3 times the amount that they were looking for him to have a successful transplant. So praise the Lord, it went really well. It was excellent stem cells. Then the next day they were going to give him the blast of chemo. And that evening, when he was thinking about the next day, he was like, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. It is an option they give you. They advise you that it's good to do this, but I don't have to do this. So that was like in the back of our minds. But we went anyway. We went the next day to the hospital, and they went. I always parked the car because I let him off at the front because he wasn't walking far distances at the time. And I dropped him off, and I went and parked the car, and then I went, and it just took me over by surprise how I felt about it. I knew I was going in the room where they were going to just dump a bunch of chemo on him. And it just struck me. Like, I just every day just went, oh, my phone's on. Every day I just went and just went through the process, but I didn't know that when I was going to walk in this room, it was going to hit me like crazy, that he's about to have this chemo just dumped into his body. And I almost felt like, not that it's the same thing at all, but it reminded me of like going to the electric chair or something. Not that I know what that is like or know what it's like to have a loved one go there. That it's probably not even a good comparison. But it was like they are going to hit the button. You know what I mean? Like they're going to hit the button, that they're going to hang that stuff. In fact, they have all this protection when they're hanging the bag in case they spill it on themselves. That's how powerful this is, this poison that they're putting in his body. And so it hit me really hard. I went out to get us coffee like I did sometimes. And when I got in line, I realized I ordered him coffee. I skipped mine because I realized I wasn't holding it together. As I waited for my coffee there at the Starbucks, I was just losing it. Like I was waiting by a pole and I was just crying and crying, getting it together. And then I went and got his coffee and went back to him. I said, look, I have to leave the room. I gotta go find a bench and cry or something. And that's exactly, I just went and took a walk. I found a bench and I cried. And when I got over it, got that cry out, I went back to the line so I can get my coffee. And I just, being myself, I kind of opened up to the person in front of me. Turned out to be a pharmacist who worked there. And he was very compassionate. And he just listened. And I said, yeah, I was in line before, but I had to get out of line. My husband has cancer. And, I told him some stuff. And he said, as he was getting up to the front, he said, hey, what do you want? I want to buy your coffee. And I was like, oh, no, that's okay. That's fine. I'm fine. And then he went on and ordered his coffee. And then he insisted, what do you want? I'll buy you your coffee. That just really touched me. And I was very thankful for his kindness. And those are the kinds of things you don't forget. It's always good to remember, especially when you're in a hospital, people are going through stuff. And he remembered that. And so he bought my coffee, so that was that day. John got his chemo, seemed like no big deal, all done, But it was all the time after that he and I just watched him just like go downhill. Because it was pummeling him. But it was the next day that they would give him his stem cells, but you still didn't really recognize anything yet. It was like a slow process. So one day they took the stem cells, the next day they put in the chemo, the next day they put back the stem cells. And so now you just kind of wait this wave out. And that's what we did. Really, the treatments were daily going back to the hospital so that they can give him whatever his body needed. They do a little blood work, and whatever was lacking, they'd supply that to him to keep him alive. I guess it probably was. I think that if they didn't do that, that could mean his life. I'm assuming, because every day we had to go back and they had to see what was missing in his blood work. If he was like his immune system was going down, down, down because of what they gave him. And then there was a point where he had the fever they kind of expect, and he had to be in the hospital for a few nights. And so it wasn't a daily visit. It was like, now you're here until you get to a certain place their immune system has built back up again. And so there was that. And then at last he was better, but his hair was coming out, and he went ahead and buzzed it all off. It's like, why pull out pieces when, you know, it's obviously not in. So he started doing the bald thing for a while, and you know, lots of guys are bald. A lot of his friends are. They just, you know, don't have hair. They just buzz it every day. But it started to grow back in. A beard has started to grow back in. He is now like, it grows back in and it looks really good. I really, really like his beard and his hair back. He looks great, in fact, and he feels well, and he's even exercising. And it is just so encouraging to us. It just seemed like he was dying, but he's coming back to like great health, like better than before we found out about cancer. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Thank you guys for praying. Thank you for praying with us throughout the whole thing. Really appreciate everyone who prayed. I know it was so many. And there were so many who also gave gifts and helped us through that time. I even received from relatives like a box full of frozen food that came from Omaha Steaks. And it's just amazing how wonderful it feels when people come around you during a hard time. I hope we don't have to go through a hard time again anytime soon. But when you go through it and you feel the love all around you, it's just such a blessing. So amazing stuff you just don't forget. Well, we're doing great. We took a vacation to the beach for the first time. Like, we've been to the beach for one day one time for like this wedding a few years ago. But as a family to go on a vacation, it was the first time ever. Before that, it was just when John and I had been married for 6 weeks. So we've been married for almost 10 years now, and this was the first vacation. It's not to say that we've never like traveled outside of our state to see relatives, but this was just like our vacation, and it was such a blessing.
He loves it.
Such a blessing. We feel very blessed. We've had a wonderful summer, and John is just getting better and better all the time. He looks great, and I think he will soon have to go on like a maintenance chemo.
Just want to come in here to say thank you for all of you that prayed for me and prayed for us, because Shauna was really going through it. I don't know, it's harder for the patient or the caregiver, but anyway, thank you for your prayers. Coming through, feeling better all the time, still some challenges, but feeling better day by day, week by week. When you've been sick for so long, even normal feels spectacular, so I'm feeling great. As you can see, less hair on the top, more hair on the bottom, and new stem cells. So life is new, and I thank you for your prayers. God bless you all.
Well said, my dear.
Oh, come
Are
on.
you grossed out by us kissing? Oh, another thing to praise the Lord about. Since the stem cells, he hasn't had any of the like asthma that he had before. So far, so good. It seems like stem cells can heal other things too. So we have a lot to be thankful for. And I just want to thank you guys for listening to this video, and thank you for your prayers. And praise the Lord with me and with us. We are doing very, very well, and this is a success story of cancer surviving.